wasn't looking for secrets, but that's exactly what I found. An ordinary Saturday, a forgotten purse, and inside, a credit card she never told me about. My heart skipped a beat as I pulled it out. It was a credit card. Emily's name was embossed across the front, but the thing was, I didn't recognize it. She'd never mentioned having another card. Why? Why the secret card? What was she hiding? And just like that, the trust I thought we had started to crack. What else was she keeping from me? As I sat down on the edge of our bed, my thoughts raced through scenarios. Was she hiding debts, extravagant purchases, or something even worse? The next hour became a whirlwind of anxiety. Unable to resist, I logged into our shared computer, my hands shaking slightly as I tried various passwords until I finally accessed her credit card statements. What I saw hit me like a gut punch. Luxury dinners at expensive restaurants, charges at hotels across the city, purchases from designer boutiques, all recent, all secret, and not things I'd ever seen her wear or bring home. I knew I needed answers. And deep down, I knew the truth might destroy the life I'd carefully built over the past 10 years. But I had to face reality. The woman I married had secrets, and I was determined to uncover them all, no matter how painful the truth might be. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep. Work became impossible. Every time Emily smiled, it felt fake. I began noticing tiny things I had ignored before. The way she'd always tilt her phone slightly away from me, how she never fully explained her whereabouts anymore, or the quick exits from the room whenever she took a call. What once seemed harmless now felt deeply suspicious, each small detail stacking up like bricks in a wall of deceit. But suspicion wasn't proof. I needed concrete evidence before confronting her. Driven by desperation and fear, I made a choice I never imagined I'd make. I started noticing patterns, unexplained absences, changes in her schedule, and receipts that didn't match her stories. I pieced everything together carefully. Each ping felt like a betrayal of trust in itself, but I justified it as necessary to uncover the deeper truth. Within days, the tracker began revealing unsettling patterns. Emily consistently spent extended hours downtown after work, nowhere near her office or her supposed yoga classes. My stomach twisted in knots as I mapped her routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, she'd park near the city's luxury hotels or upscale restaurants, always staying for hours. It was painfully clear now. There was someone else. My resolve to confront her grew stronger, but I hesitated. I wanted irrefutable proof, something undeniable that she couldn't dismiss as paranoia or misunderstanding. I decided to collect undeniable proof, so I started keeping a close eye on her routines, tracking expenses, and documenting every inconsistency in her stories. But the need for certainty outweighed my guilt. 3 nights later, the GPS pinged. Same hotel, same time. My hands clenched the wheel as I drove there, heart pounding. As I parked across the street, I watched from the shadows, pulse racing, palms sweating. As the hotel doors swung open and Emily stepped out, my breath hitched. That laugh, when was the last time she laughed like that? She was stunning, in a dress I'd never seen. That laugh. I used to be the one who made her laugh like that. But now, I was just the fool she laughed about. Her hand clung to his arm. His touch was familiar, too familiar. Rage and pain exploded inside me as I saw him lean down and kiss her gently, comfortably, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Every part of me wanted to leap out and confront them right there, to make a scene, to demand answers. But my feet felt frozen, rooted to the ground. All I could do was watch in quiet agony as they exchanged tender words, lingering far longer than strangers would. It shattered my heart beyond recognition. When Emily finally drove home, I was already waiting in the living room, staring blankly into the dark. She stepped through the door, startled to see me still awake. A flicker of worry flashed across her face, quickly masked by a smile. "Why are you still up, honey?" she asked casually. I wanted to explore, to throw the pictures I'd secretly snapped right in her face and demand explanations. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was the crushing weight of betrayal, but instead, I muttered something about insomnia and headed to bed, keeping the rage locked deep inside. The following days were torture. Every time Emily spoke, her words felt hollow, and every smile felt calculated. I began obsessively documenting everything. Dates, times, hotel names, screenshots from the tracker, and photos of her meetings. I knew that if I confronted her now, she might talk her way out of it or twist it back onto me. I needed more proof she couldn't escape from. But the real heartbreak wasn't just the betrayal itself. It was the realization of how long this deception had been happening right under my nose. Had our marriage meant nothing to her? Had I meant nothing? Emily seemed oblivious to my turmoil, still performing her role as the perfect wife, while I slowly drowned in suspicion and bitterness. It was unbearable living this lie, knowing the woman I loved, who once pledged to share everything with me, was now a stranger. No yelling, no scenes. This betrayal deserved something bigger. Emily had systematically destroyed our marriage with her lies, and I was determined to return the favor in kind. I wanted to lash out, to destroy everything. But was I really ready for this? Remember, I had to be smart about it. She played her game in the shadows, so would I. I would make sure she felt every ounce of the humiliation and pain she'd inflicted upon me, because I now had one goal left, to uncover every ugly secret Emily had hidden from me, and to make sure everyone else saw exactly who she was. After the initial wave of anger settled, reality set in hard. I had been betrayed, yes, but beyond the fury there was an overwhelming sense of loss and humiliation. Everything I thought I had, trust, companionship, a loving family, felt like a carefully constructed illusion that had suddenly crumbled beneath my feet. I withdrew from Emily emotionally, though outwardly I maintained the facade that nothing had changed. Each day became a performance, smiles forced, dinners filled with empty conversations. Yet beneath that mask, something fundamental had shifted in me. I no longer saw Emily as the woman I'd loved for over a decade. Instead, she had become a stranger living in my home, someone whose every word was suspect, whose every glance triggered suspicion. But wallowing in self-pity wasn't my style. One sleepless night, lying alone in our bed, I decided I wouldn't let her betrayal destroy me. She'd chosen deception, but I would choose transformation. It was time to rebuild myself, not just for revenge, but for my sanity, dignity, and future. At first, the gym was a distraction. Then it became an obsession. Every weight I lifted carried a piece of my anger, and I got stronger. Each session became an intense release, fueling my determination. Soon enough, changes became obvious. I lost weight, built muscle, and felt healthier than I had in years. Friends and coworkers began noticing and complimenting me, unaware of the pain driving my newfound discipline. Professionally, I refocused my energy into the software business I started years ago, but had long neglected. I'd grown complacent over time, satisfied with comfortable but uninspired results. Now, the same determination that transformed my body began reshaping my career. I took calculated risks, pursued major contracts, networked aggressively, and started seeing significant returns. Within months, my small startup expanded dramatically. New opportunities and clients poured in, bringing along a steady stream of money and recognition. Ironically, as I grew more successful, Emily seemed increasingly unsettled. She had always enjoyed being the center of attention, comfortable being the more accomplished partner in our marriage. Now, witnessing my rapid ascent, I noticed her growing unease. She questioned me subtly about late nights, the business trips I took without her, the new clothes and expensive gadgets I'd purchased. Her suspicion amused and saddened me. She was projecting her guilt, terrified of losing control. All the while, I quietly pieced together the truth, connecting every detail that painted the full picture of her deception. I gathered undeniable proof, conversations, locations, and actions that spoke louder than words. And then, the final blow. I uncovered emails between Emily and the other man, who, ironically, was married himself. Their messages had exposed a world of secrecy, where trust had been nothing but an illusion. Facing the truth was painful, but it gave me clarity. One evening, returning home late after closing a major deal, I sat alone in my car, contemplating how drastically my life had changed. Once naive, trusting, and comfortable, I'd become hardened, confident, and calculating. It wasn't just physical and financial. I'd changed emotionally, too. I was stronger, yes, but colder, more ruthless. Emily's betrayal had stripped away my innocence, but in its place stood a man unafraid to do what needed to be done. Yet deep down, the transformation wasn't just fueled by anger or the thirst for revenge. I wanted more from life than deception and games. I deserved genuine happiness, something authentic rather than the charade I'd lived for too long. Revenge would be satisfying, but it wasn't my end goal. It was simply justice. Retribution she undeniably deserved. As the months rolled by, Emily's confusion grew palpable. She could sense my emotional distance, but couldn't pinpoint why. I gave vague excuses about work stress and needing personal space, feeding her uncertainty. Her affair continued discreetly, though less frequently. I could sense her own anxieties mounting, perhaps aware that her carefully constructed double life was becoming harder to maintain. Meanwhile, my transformation had become undeniable to everyone around us. Friends praised my newfound confidence. Co-workers admired my leadership. Acquaintances were drawn to my charisma and drive. Even strangers reacted differently, sensing a man with a purpose, someone unburdened by doubt or insecurity. But all these external changes paled in comparison to the quiet resolve I'd nurtured internally. I was no longer a victim of Emily's betrayal. I was in control. Finally, after nearly 6 months of meticulous planning, my moment arrived. Emily's birthday was fast approaching, and as tradition dictated, we'd host a large gathering with friends, family, and co-workers. The perfect occasion, the perfect stage for her humiliation, the exact revenge I'd envisioned from the beginning. Invitations were sent, arrangements finalized, and anticipation built steadily within me. Everything I'd collected, the credit card records, photos, videos, the intimate emails, would finally see the light of day. On the eve of the party, I stood before the mirror, adjusting my tie, reflecting on everything I'd become. This wasn't the man who discovered his wife's secret credit card months earlier, devastated and uncertain. No, this was a different man. A stronger, colder, more confident man, ready to reclaim his dignity and exact justice for the humiliation and deceit he'd endured. Tomorrow Emily would face the truth. The lies? Over. The mask? Gone. The evening of Emily's birthday party arrived with deceptive calmness. Our home was beautifully decorated, the lights glowing softly, a carefully curated playlist whispering in the background. Guests began arriving one by one. Emily's friends, our families, neighbors, and co-workers, each bringing their smiles, gifts, and good wishes. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, completely unaware of the explosive revelation that awaited them. Emily, dressed in her favorite emerald green gown, mingled effortlessly through the crowd, smiling, laughing, and thanking everyone graciously. To anyone watching, she seemed genuinely happy, the perfect hostess and loving wife. But I knew the truth hiding behind her flawless performance. Tonight, everyone else would see it too. As the guests continued to socialize, I carefully prepared the grand finale. I'd set up a slideshow that Emily believed would feature moments from our marriage, vacations, and family memories. She'd even excitedly suggested a few pictures, oblivious to my intentions. But tonight's slideshow had a far different purpose. Finally, it was time. I gently tapped a spoon against my wine glass, drawing everyone's attention. The chatter faded into expectant silence as friends and family gathered around us, faces bright with anticipation. I cleared my throat, meeting Emily's eyes directly. As most of you know, today is Emily's birthday, and we've shared 10 incredible years. To honor her, I put together something special. Emily beamed, squeezing my hand affectionately. "You are so sweet," she whispered, her eyes sparkling. "Trust me," I said quietly. "It's something you'll never forget." With a subtle nod, I clicked play, stepping slightly back to watch as the screen came to life. The room was filled with soft music, and initially, images of our happy times flashed across the screen. Vacations in Hawaii, holiday dinners, our wedding day. Emily's smile grew wider with each familiar moment, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. As the slideshow played, a final image appeared, an email she had sent confirming a hotel booking that didn't include me. The room fell silent. Whispers began to spread as a realization dawned upon everyone. The murmurs around us grew louder as everyone struggled to understand what they were seeing. Emily's face paled and she whispered urgently, "What's going on? This isn't funny. Stop this now." But I didn't move. I stood silently, watching as the slideshow continued, revealing everything. Photos I'd secretly taken of her with her lover outside hotels, screenshots of emails, and GPS logs showing her regular visits to their meeting places. Gasps of shock rippled through the room, followed by hushed, tense whispers. Emily's parents looked mortified, her friends stared in disbelief, and my mother turned away, visibly heartbroken. Emily's face paled as she frantically looked around, her voice shaking. "Turn this off! This is ridiculous!" Emily's mother clutched her chest, whispering something under her breath. Her father just shook his head, his face drained of color. "Emily, what have you done?" I took a slow step forward, keeping my voice steady but firm. "I spent months piecing this together. The late nights, the unexplained charges, the secrets. Tonight, I'm simply laying out the truth." I gestured toward the screen where the final set of messages was still displayed. The room was heavy with silence. Emily opened her mouth to argue, but the weight of the evidence was undeniable. No more excuses, no more lies. And by the way, I continued coldly, my voice steady and clear, the man you've been seeing, he's married too. I wonder if his wife knows about your little secret. A collective gasp erupted through the room, scandalized whispers growing louder. Emily's perfect facade crumbled entirely as embarrassment consumed her, tears streaming down her cheeks. The woman who once controlled everything was now reduced to humiliation and despair. She turned toward her parents, but their looks were of disappointment and shame. Her friends averted their eyes, unable to even look at her. Emily was utterly alone, stripped bare before everyone who once admired her. It was exactly the justice I'd planned, carefully and methodically. Yet my revenge wasn't complete. I held up an envelope and stepped closer, looking directly at her. This is for you. Divorce papers. You'll be hearing from my lawyer first thing tomorrow. Emily's face twisted in shock and disbelief, her knees buckling slightly as she struggled to stay upright. She reached out for support, but no one offered a hand. No one wanted any part of her deception. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly, turning away, because some choices can't be undone. As I walked out of the room, I could feel the weight of everyone's stunned silence behind me. Yet there was no pleasure in the moment, only grim satisfaction. The life I'd built and the woman I'd trusted were shattered. But the satisfaction lay in knowing Emily finally understood the devastating consequences of her choices. Later that night, after everyone had left in shocked whispers and strained goodbyes, I stood alone in the house we'd once shared, feeling a strange blend of loss and liberation. Emily was gone, retreating somewhere in shame, leaving behind an empty home filled with broken memories. But in the silence, something surprising emerged within me. Yes, revenge had been necessary. Justice had to be served. But I also felt strangely free, unshackled from the lies, the doubts, and the toxic uncertainty that had bound me for too long. I knew the road ahead would be painful, messy, and lonely at first. But it would be honest, real, and entirely mine. The chapter with Emily was over, and her secrets and betrayal were exposed. I'd played the long game, meticulously crafted the perfect revenge, and achieved exactly what I'd set out to do. She'd lost everything, respect, dignity, reputation, all by her own making. I'd finally reclaimed my dignity, proving that no matter how deep the deception, truth would always win in the end. Now, standing alone but free, I realized this journey that was never about Emily's choices. It was about rediscovering my own, my confidence, my strength, and my self-worth. She'd chosen deception. I chose redemption. She chose to betray. I chose to rebuild. In the weeks following Emily's public humiliation and our explosive breakup, my life began shifting in unexpected ways. Initially, there was emptiness. Quiet nights in a house that echoed painfully with memories of a marriage that no longer existed. Yet gradually that silence became peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from suspicion, free from lies, and free to redefine my path entirely on my own terms. I moved into an apartment downtown, leaving the suburban life behind me. It was smaller, simpler, yet somehow far more satisfying. Everything in it was genuinely mine, nothing tainted by the shadow of betrayal. Each morning when I woke up, I breathed easier, feeling like a man who had reclaimed not just his dignity, but his entire identity. At first, mutual friends and family members struggled to navigate the awkward fallout. People called cautiously, testing the waters to see if I was still bitter, if I was coping, or if I had succumbed to loneliness. But they quickly discovered someone different, a stronger, calmer version of myself who was no longer defined by anger or resentment. Emily's betrayal had taught me invaluable lessons about trust, boundaries, and self-respect. I was determined to carry those lessons forward, wiser and more resilient. Emily, on the other hand, didn't fare as well. The truth spread fast. People distanced themselves. Actions have consequences. Our mutual friends gradually distanced themselves, unwilling to associate with someone who'd shown such disregard for loyalty and decency. Rumors reached me that her lover had swiftly abandoned her after his marriage collapsed, unwilling to bear the consequences of their reckless decisions. She played a dangerous game. And now, the truth had caught up to her. I didn't take joy in her downfall, but I couldn't deny a sense of poetic justice. Choices have consequences, and she was living proof. I'd rebuilt myself. She now faced the monumental task of doing the same, but without the dignity or respect she'd lost. The life she once controlled slipped from her grasp. Months passed, and my transformation continued. My business flourished further, gaining recognition in the local media, leading to speaking engagements at industry conferences and opening doors I once never imagined possible. My newfound confidence and clarity allowed me to connect with new people, individuals drawn not by superficial charm, but by genuine integrity and ambition. Slowly and cautiously, I even allowed myself to explore relationships again, careful but open-hearted. Love felt different now, authentic, deliberate, and built on a foundations of mutual respect. One evening, as I relaxed on my apartment balcony overlooking the city lights, I reflected deeply on the past year. Emily's betrayal had been devastating, yet paradoxically, it had been the catalyst for the greatest period of growth and success in my life. Without it, perhaps I'd still be the man quietly tolerating subtle disrespect, blindly trusting without scrutiny, never fully understanding my worth. I realized that genuine happiness wasn't about perfection, and certainly wasn't about revenge. True satisfaction came from living honestly, authentically, and fearlessly. My greatest revenge wasn't just exposing Emily's lies. It was refusing to let those lies define me, choosing instead to rise above the pain and reclaim control over my life. Trust, once shattered, can rarely ever be fully repaired. Secrets and deception inevitably lead to destruction, not only of relationships, but also of one's self-worth. Sometimes losing someone is the best thing that can happen to you, because in the end, I didn't just expose a lie, I reclaimed my life. Yet the most powerful lesson was that no betrayal, no matter how devastating, should define who you are or who you become. Each person has the power to rebuild, transform pain into strength, and emerge stronger, wiser, and more authentic. As I sat in peaceful solitude that evening, I finally felt healed, not by revenge, but by the courage to move forward, unburdened by bitterness or regret. I'd reclaim my happiness not by punishing someone else, but by choosing myself. And that choice, above all else, was my greatest triumph. Have you ever caught someone in a lie this big? What did you do?